Julie Chrisley receives extended probation time after hearing. Julie Chrisley received extended probation time after her resentencing hearing. This was shocking for fans to hear. Everyone thought she might get less time in jail. However, that was not the case at all. Savannah Chrisley made it clear she was not happy about this. Keep reading to find out more. Savannah Chrisley is not happy. Savannah Chrisley has been vocal when it comes to her mother and her freedom. She is not afraid to speak her mind and let people know what is wrong in the justice system. However, some fans feel as though this is hurting her mother's chances of getting out sooner. They think Savannah is sabotaging it all by being so vocal about the issues. Bwahaha. Let Savannah's whining commence. Serves this family right, no accountability taking twats. If only her daughter would keep her damn mouth shut, she probably would be out soon. Julie Chrisley gets more probation time. Julie Chrisley recently had her resentencing hearing. Her family was hoping that she would get less time on her sentence and get home quickly. However, this was not the case at all. Julie ended up getting the same amount of time in prison. Also, she got 2 additional years of probation time. She originally had 3 years of supervised release. However, she now had 5 years of supervised release. Fans did not realize this until they saw the documents. Savannah has also not said much about this. Fans feel as though Julie asking for so much messed up her chances of a lesser sentence. She asked to attend the hearing via Zoom, a 24-hour furlough, and to wear street clothes. All were denied. This may have made the judge mad at her before it all started. Do you think this messed up her chances of getting out sooner? It seems the judge was not having it with Julie. They made sure to get the point across that your fame does not get you out of consequences for doing bad things. However, her attorney feels as though that is the only reason she did not get less time. They feel as though the judge wanted to make a point. Julie Chrisley walked into the courthouse with a heavy heart and her head held high, a combination of grace and resolve that had carried her through some of the darkest days of her life. The media frenzy outside was nothing new, yet today felt different. This time, there was a looming sense of finality in the air. She faced the courts before, but today's hearing would determine whether her time under the government's watchful eye would be extended. As the cameras flashed and reporters shouted her name, she steeled herself for what was to come. The courtroom was a sterile, intimidating place, its towering ceilings and cold marble floors doing nothing to quell the knot in Julie's stomach. Sitting at the defendant's table next to her attorney, she tried to focus on breathing evenly. Todd, her husband, wasn't here today. They hadn't seen each other much lately, both consumed by their respective legal battles. Their once perfect life, broadcast to millions, had been shattered under the weight of fraud charges. But now Julie was fighting for something different, her freedom, or at least the remnants of it. The judge entered, a stern-faced man in his 60s, his robe billowing as he moved to take his seat at the bench. He had presided over her case from the beginning, and Julie had learned to decipher the subtle shifts in his expressions, though today his face was unreadable. Her attorney, a sharp-eyed woman with a knack for crafting a compelling defense, stood and began to argue for leniency. Your Honor, Mrs. Chrisley has been fully compliant during her probationary period. She has attended all required meetings, completed her community service hours, and has shown a genuine commitment to rehabilitation. We believe that extending her probation would be punitive rather than corrective at this stage. Julie's hands clenched together in her lap, the words flowing over her as she tried to keep her emotions in check. She had done everything asked of her, followed every rule, attended every mandated meeting, and completed every service hour. But would it be enough? The prosecution countered, of course. They argued that while Julie had been compliant, The seriousness of her crimes warranted further monitoring. Mrs. Chrisley's offenses, while white-collar, were not victimless. The financial damage caused by her actions had a ripple effect on many individuals and businesses. Extending her probation would ensure that she continues to remain on the right path. Julie winced at the words. She knew what they had done was wrong. She and Todd had built an empire on a house of cards. But she had also tried to make amends, to rebuild her life with integrity. Wasn't that what the justice system was supposed to do? Give people a chance to redeem themselves. After the closing arguments, the courtroom fell into a tense silence as the judge prepared to deliver his decision. Julie held her breath, her heart thudding in her chest like a drum. This was the moment that would determine her immediate future. The judge adjusted his glasses, his gaze sweeping across the room before landing on her. "Mrs. Chrisley," he began, his voice steady, "I have taken into consideration the arguments presented today, as well as your record during the period of probation. I acknowledge that you have complied with the conditions set before you. However," he paused, and Julie felt her stomach drop. "Given the nature of your crimes and the extent of the financial damage caused, I do not believe it is in the best interest of justice to terminate your probation at this time." Julie's heart sank as the weight of his words hit her. It was the outcome she had feared but hoped against. Her attorney's face was carefully neutral, though Julie could see the tension in her jaw. "That being said," the judge continued, "I am extending your probation for an additional 3 years, during which time you will continue to be subject to the conditions previously set by this court. You will also be required to attend financial literacy courses as part of your rehabilitation." The gavel came down with a thud, and just like that, it was over. 3 more years of restrictions, meetings, and supervision. 3 more years of walking the fine line between freedom and incarceration. Julie blinked back the tears that threatened to spill, willing herself to stay composed. The cameras would be waiting outside, and she couldn't afford to let them see her break. As she stood, her attorney touched her arm gently. "We'll appeal," she said quietly, though Julie knew it was more a formality than a real chance at change. The decision had been made, and it would stand. The walk back out of the courthouse felt surreal. The air outside was crisp, the sun glaring down as if mocking her internal storm. Reporters swarmed the steps, microphones thrust toward her face, eager for a reaction. But Julie said nothing. Her silence was her shield as she pushed through the crowd, her attorney acting as a barrier between her and the hungry press. Once inside the car, Julie finally allowed herself a moment to breathe. She closed her eyes, leaning her head back against the seat, her mind swirling with the implications of what had just happened. 3 more years. It felt like a lifetime. She had already spent so much time under the watchful eye of the law, her every move scrutinized, her privacy stripped away. She had hoped for a reprieve, a chance to start rebuilding without the looming shadow of the court system over her. But that wasn't going to happen. Not yet. Her phone buzzed in her bag, but she didn't reach for it. She didn't want to see the flood of messages from friends, family, or fans. What could anyone say that would make this easier? Nothing would change the fact that her life would remain on hold for 3 more years. The future she had envisioned, one where she could move forward with her head held high, felt impossibly distant now. Julie's thoughts drifted to her family. Todd, of course, was dealing with his own legal woes. Their children, their beloved family, had been fractured by the stress of it all. They had rallied around her, yes, but she could feel the strain in every conversation, in every concerned look. She wanted to be strong for them, but she wasn't sure how much longer she could maintain the facade. As the car pulled away from the courthouse, Julie stared out the window, watching the world blur by. Her world had already changed so much, once filled with the trappings of wealth and fame, now marked by uncertainty and caution. Yet in the midst of it all, she knew she had to keep moving forward. She had no other choice.